Welcome back. This is part one of my very first multi-part series that I'm doing here, and it's going to be in making my version of the classic bridge chairs. Okay, in other words, the blue chairs from the Enterprise bridge from the original Star Trek series. And it's been quite a journey. I bought them on Lazada around October or November 2020, and as you can see, at this point, they bear little resemblance to the chair on the right. Two reasons, obviously the four legs, okay? I live in Phuket in Thailand, and although I know I can buy the original Berk chairs if I want to pay a lot of money in shipping, I don't, I don't want to pay a lot of money in shipping. And so I looked for the nearest alternative that I could find. And so after a lot of searching, I came across these. It didn't have to be blue. I mean, it's nice that this plastic is blue, but in the end it had to be repainted anyway. It was just nice that I could get a pair of chairs that almost cost nothing. I mean, I think they're about $12 each, $12 each. It was like 280 Thai baht plus postage for each chair, which was crazy low price. I think that's what it was off the top of my head. Anyhow, I bought them and I assembled them, and they sat for several months. In fact, the other one is downstairs. My wife's using it on her art table. It still looks like this. That's the actual chair. For the other chair, when I finished building my woodworking workshop downstairs, my first project in that workshop was to convert the chair to sit on an old student chair base. Okay, as you can see on the right. But obviously I hadn't done the upholstery or anything at that point in time. So to do the conversion, it wasn't exactly easy because none of the screw holes lined up with the mounting plate on the old desk chair base that I was recycling. So I had to make adapters, and I guess I could have made them out of steel. I'm much more comfortable working with wood, so I decided to go down that route. And so I cut two wooden bars, marked out the holes, as you can see here, for both the mounting plate on the chair and of course the screw holes on the bottom of this seat bucket. Now, I did make two mistakes when I did this, and I'm going to have to go back and correct this later on. But it would have been nice if I had rounded off the corners rather than leaving them at 90 degrees. Okay? That would have just made the finish look a little tidier. The other mistake is that they're both the same thickness, whereas in reality, I studied the chair downstairs a little bit more, and I noticed that the mounting points in the back actually sit a little bit lower than the mountings on the front. Okay, so this piece here needs to be about maybe 3/4 to 2/3 of the thickness of the front piece in order to get that angle roughly correct. So that's another thing I'm going to have to go back and correct. So I'll probably make new adapters later on, but that doesn't diminish the fact that the concept here is correct. Measurements might not be, and I might not have rounded off the corners for the sake of appearance, but the concept here is quite correct. And it worked first time. So here, obviously I've got the wooden brackets screwed onto the bucket. Now I'm marking out the brackets. And you can see much more clearly now how I could easily have rounded off those corners there on front and the back. The back much more so than the front, and the back is more visible than the front too, so I really need to go back and sort that out. Now I gave them a coat of black spray paint, and here's just a few more angles that show how it was done. I was able to reuse the bolts from the seat bucket itself, but I had to use new bolts to mount the seat base to the adapters. This is an experiment. I'm not saying this is the perfect thing. Like I said, I've got to round off the corners, I've got to change the thickness of the rear adapter plate. One thing that is nice is that by using this wood, it does lift the chair bucket a little bit extra. And this is a student's chair that I'm using. It's not an adult's chair. But at a later date, when I can afford to buy an adult's chair base, I will make the change. So for now, I'm happy to leave it as it is. At the moment, I'm on a reduced income at work as well because of COVID lockdowns and all the problems that's causing. So I can't afford at the moment to do these upgrades. So this chair was really an experiment, and a lot in the process that I learned was things that I learned about design, adaptation, and things that I can pass on to you, which hopefully will help you with your project. So I'm quite happy to share with you my mistakes, quite happy to share what went wrong, so that when you attempt your own project, whether it's the chair that I built or some other project, some other chair making project, hopefully you will learn something valuable from this. So that you can see really how much the block here at the back stands out now because of the curvature of the rear of the bucket. So I really need new brackets with they're as discreet as possible here. It might even be better to cut down, if I was to do this on a new chair base, I'd probably choose one where I can cut down the chassis and give it a centre post and then put out some box piping or something like that. So it's as discreet as possible. I apologise for the blurry nature of the photo on the left, but it does show you that first step completed with my workshop in the background. Oh, I love my workshop. And by the way, most of those tools that you see there were my father's. A couple of them I've obtained over the years, but most of my father's was he was a carpenter, builder, a cabinet maker. And so when he passed on, I inherited a lot of his tools. And some of his tools go back quite a long time. This one here is a rubbing plane, it's a rebating plane. It's a gift from a friend. I bought this one here in Thailand. It's rubbish. It's awful. But this antique Primus here is absolutely rubbish. One of the best plane I've got, easily. And so I've got a lot of good tools to work with here when I'm doing these projects. And the photo on the right is a much more recent photo, just before I started doing the upholstery. So that's it for part one. In part two, I'm going to show you how I built up the structure for the backrest. In part three, I'll show you how I built up the structure for the seat cushion. They are quite different in what I did. And in part four, I'll cover the upholstery. Now, I'm going to say up front, this is my first time doing upholstery. I didn't do a great job, but it was a great learning experience. We're all going to start somewhere, so I'm glad I had the opportunity to start on something that actually didn't really cost that much money. I will do the second chair, partly when I've got the funds, because I don't have the funds to buy the chair base at the moment. I also got to find a supplier for the black vinyl. The shop on Lazada that I bought it from seems to be not selling at the moment, so I either got to wait or to find another supplier. But, so that's it for this video. Hope this inspires you to think that you can actually build your own chair, that you don't need expensive tools or anything like that. You can actually make it with quite affordable resources, provided of course you've got the chair to start with, and you can find the vinyl to cover it. I ignored the traditional plywood and MDF construction, and I went straight for EVA foam, which is nice and strong, nice and firm, and for my taste quite comfortable to sit in as well. So that's how I built up mine, and you'll see that in the next two videos. In the future, when I can afford to buy the new chair base for the other chair and maybe a replacement for this one, I will do a fifth video that shows improvements to the design. That might be a way off yet. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in part two. Bye bye.